we are embarking again on another verse of Atisha's Bodhisattva jewel ornament. So we have 4 sessions. We did one whole verse last time, so we're really making progress. That's better than 1 line or 2 lines or 3 lines. We did 4 lines. So today we will begin with verse 2, and we'll see how far we get with verse 2. Okay, so let's have a few minutes of a silent meditation to calm the mind, and then we'll generate our motivation and begin the teachings. So Atisha went through many hardships to get to Indonesia or Malaysia to meet Lama Serlingpa and receive the teachings on the Bodhisattva practice. And he did this with the motivation of bodhicitta, looking forward many, many centuries, many, many generations, thinking of all the people who could benefit from these teachings. So we're following many, many centuries and generations later to receive these teachings that Atisha so kindly received himself from his teacher. So just as he had the motivation to attain awakening for the benefit of all beings, to make ourselves into receptive vessels to listen to the teaching, let us too generate that same motivation so that Atisha's way of thinking and our way of thinking are in line with each other. So take a moment and do that. Okay, so last time we talked about the homage that Atisha pays homage to great compassion, to the teachers and to the deities, the yidams. And then he plunged right in the first sentence of the text. Discard all lingering doubts. Okay. So that's the first line. He's telling us we really need to look at our doubts. And not just push them aside, not just go, oh, I believe because my teacher said so. but really think about things and investigate and do some searching for ourselves to understand the things that currently we have doubts about. Yeah. So it might be interesting sometime to have a discussion group in which we share our doubts and see what are some of the common ones that people have. And then maybe we can look specifically at the teachings that apply to those doubts and then have some discussion about them. What do you think? Yeah, I think that could be very helpful. Okay. And then he said, strive with dedication in your practice. Okay. Can I get a good nap first? No, he's telling us, think about what is important and go for that, and don't let yourself be distracted. And what's one of the ways we get distracted? Okay, so his next line says, thoroughly relinquish sleep, lethargy, and laziness. So at one of the teachings of one of my teachers, who likes to start the teachings at 11 o'clock at night and go to 4 in the morning, people were asking, has anybody ever actually fallen off their seat during one of the teachings? Yes, people nod off. But the answer came back, yes. There had been one man, sitting on a chair. I don't know what time in the morning it was, in the middle of the night. And he fell off. Yeah, he didn't break any bones, fortunately. It wasn't a big fall. But, to kind of guard against that. And then strive always with joyful perseverance. Yeah. So not perseverance that is pushing ourselves, that is, I better do this. But actually with joyful perseverance, knowing that you're acting in accord with your own deepest spiritual longing and spiritual motivation. So that's a review of verse 1. Verse 2 says, with mindfulness, introspective awareness, and conscientiousness, constantly guard the gateways of your senses. Again and again, 3 times, both day and night, examine the flow of your thoughts. Okay, so remember I mentioned last time that in these verses we have a number of the mental factors are explicitly pointed out. And so I wanted to read some of the definitions of those mental factors. Okay, so here's mindfulness. And yes, I know mindfulness is the latest big buzzword now. In secular mindfulness, everybody's teaching mindfulness. Okay, here we are talking about Buddhist mindfulness, which is not the same as secular mindfulness as being taught by therapists and scientists and other people. Because Buddhist mindfulness is taught within the framework of the Buddhist worldview, which includes karma, rebirth, the idea that we are the ones that create our happiness and suffering. So the framework is very different than teaching mindfulness in a secular way where there's no talk of rebirth or karma. Okay. And also the technique is different. In secular mindfulness, very often it's taught as just be aware of whatever object is appearing to your mind, be it a sense object or a a thought, okay, and just be aware of what is appearing. Buddhist mindfulness actually is done together with wisdom. Okay, it's not divorced from wisdom. So Buddhist mindfulness has a part of investigation. Yeah, it's where we're, for example, just in ethical conduct, we are mindful of our precepts. We remember our precepts. And so as we are aware of our environment, we're actually being aware, are we living by our precepts? Okay. In terms of developing concentration in our meditation practice, mindfulness is what focuses on the main object of meditation. So it's not just whatever object appears to you. It's the object that you've chosen to develop concentration on. Okay. In terms of wisdom, you're being mindful of the ultimate nature and how dependent arising and emptiness come to the same point. Okay. In the practice of the four establishments of mindfulness, we are regarding first our body, then the mind, then feelings, then the mind, and then phenomena. And in each of these four, we're not just seeing what's coming to the mind, but we're focusing, for example, on the body and what actually is the body. Okay, and how does the body function? And how does the body relate to feelings? Okay, so there's a definite method of investigation. It's not just observation. Okay, but in the low rig text, so it's mindfulness, which can also be translated as memory. It's one of the 5 object ascertaining mental factors. Okay. So it's linked, another translation is memory. Yeah. So mindfulness, at the beginning, when the beginning of the mindfulness craze, nobody knew what mindfulness was. Yeah. It's not an English word that we're used to. Okay. Now, I think it's probably in the dictionary and people know it as its secular definition. But like I said, from a Buddhist perspective, it can be also translated as memory. Yeah, remembering the object. So it's a distinct mental factor that repeatedly brings to mind a phenomena of previous acquaintance without forgetting it. Okay, so there's something that you've been acquainted with that you want to remember and pay attention to, which may be your ethical conduct, your values of how you carry yourself. It may be your object of meditation, but there's something that you are repeatedly bringing to mind, and mindfulness holds your attention on that without forgetting it. And mindfulness functions to not allow the mind to be distracted from the object, okay, from the basis of, what you're paying your attention to. Okay, so it's also said, let's see. So mindfulness has 3 features. The objective feature, which is a familiar object. So it needs to be something that you know already, yeah. And then a subjective feature, which is not forgetting that object within observing it, okay. And then the functional feature is that it functions to not distract the mind, because the stability of the mind increases with memory, okay. So mindfulness in Buddhism is very often coupled with another mental factor, which has various translations, okay? The translation I prefer is introspective awareness, but it can be translated as just awareness, as vigilance, as introspection, and there's probably a few more ways that it can be translated. Okay, that one of introspective awareness, okay, it doesn't have a definition in terms of what it is, but there is a definition of the opposite, which is non-introspective awareness. And there's also a definition of forgetfulness, which is non-mindfulness. Okay, so it's helpful to look at those two. Okay, because those two, forgetfulness and non-introspective awareness, they are part of the 20 auxiliary afflictions that are to be eliminated on the path. So let's do forgetfulness first, okay? So this is non-mindfulness. So this is how you know when you've lost it, okay? So it's it's a mental factor which, having caused the apprehension of a virtuous object to be lost, induces memory of and distraction towards an object of affliction. Okay, so you're focused on a virtuous object, maybe your values and how you want to behave. Maybe your object to meditation, maybe the nature of reality, whatever your object is. And forgetfulness causes our mind to be distracted from that object. Okay? And instead, it induces memory of and distraction towards an object of affliction. So, it's very interesting reading a definition of something that we have going on in our mind all day long. Okay? Do you recognize this mental factor? Yeah? You're sitting and meditating. You start out, maybe you're visualizing the Buddha before you take refuge. You're visualizing the Buddha, and then, like that, you're thinking about what you're going to do after the meditation session. Yeah? You're you're meditating on precious human life and all the possibilities that it gives you to practice Dharma. And then you start thinking of, you want to buy a new house and you want to get a new car, and what kind of car do you want? How much does it cost? And you go on and on. Okay. So that's that mental factor. Yeah. It completely takes you away. Yeah. Or you say, I'm going to be really mindful today and I'm not going to badmouth anybody. Yeah. So that's your determination, your motivation for today. You start out with mindfulness, watching your speech. Good way to do it is the duct tape meditation. Okay. So you start out watching, and then before you know it, what's coming out of your mouth with the first person you greet in your workplace is, oh, did you hear da da da? Oh, this is driving me crazy. Why can't they? Blah 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 blah. And you're criticizing somebody. You are complaining about something. Yeah. So how did you get from that determination in your meditation in the morning, and then whammo, your mind's on the exact opposite of, doing what you just made the determination not to do? Okay. That's forgetfulness. That's non-mindfulness. Okay. That caused us to be distracted from the determination we made in the beginning, and our mind just goes off anywhere. Okay. Then introspective awareness, like I said, there's no definition of what it is, but here's the definition of its opposite, non-introspective awareness, which could be also called non-alertness. Yeah. There's a lot of mental factors that are called whatever it is. And what that means, it isn't just the lack of that mental factor, it's the exact opposite of it. Okay. So, for example, there's a mental factor called non-attachment. It doesn't just mean having an equal mind. It means the opposite of attachment. Okay. That your mind is free of attachment and, you're able to look at things clearly. Okay, so here, non-introspective awareness is a mental factor which, being an afflictive intelligence, which has made no or only a rough analysis, is not fully alert to the conduct of our body, speech, and mind, and thus causes us to enter into careless indifference. Okay, that's the definition, again, of something that we have a lot of every day. Okay, it functions to degenerate the power of intelligence. It causes negative actions of body, speech, and mind to increase. It increases ethical downfalls and hinders the production of the four opponent powers to purify those downfalls. Okay, so it's a mental factor which is an afflictive intelligence. We may wonder, how can you have intelligence that is afflictive? Here, intelligence means that it's a mental factor that comes about through some kind of investigation or analysis. Okay. Here, the analysis has been afflictive. You're looking at, what's a good example? So you're visualizing the Buddha. Yeah. And you start out thinking of making offerings, just like we did in the 7-limb prayer, and you're visualizing them. Okay. And then diluted intelligence, takes you from making offerings to thinking about what you can get for yourself. Okay. It's still the same kind of thing, except instead of offering to the Buddha, we're offering to ourselves, which is our usual pattern, isn't it? Okay. But non-introspective awareness has made no or only a rough analysis. So it's not fully alert to the conduct of our body, speech, and mind. Okay. So you've made the determination in the morning, let's say that you're really going to be careful with the 10, to avoid the 10 destructive actions. Okay. So you're going to be really careful, with how you handle all the bugs. Okay. I don't know in Netherlands if you have a lot of bugs, but we have so many bugs here. We have more bugs than we do people. Way more bugs than people. Okay. And then we say today also, I'm not going to badmouth anybody. And for mind, I'm not going to think any malicious thoughts. Okay. And then, so forgetfulness makes us forget what we just determined to do. And then non-introspective awareness is just, I thought I'm not going to do those, but we're not really clearly thinking what that entails. What does it entail not to badmouth somebody? What do I have to really, really careful of? What does it entail to not hold malicious thoughts? Yeah. So it hasn't done much investigation or exploration. And so then it takes the mind off off what we've determined. So introspective awareness is the opposite of that. Okay, so it's a mind that knows what it wants to do and knows what that entails and is doing exactly that. Okay, so in the context, let's say of our ethical conduct, we're mindful of how we want our values and the 10 virtuous actions we want to do, the 10 we don't want to do. And then introspective awareness is like, they say it's like a part of your mind that is on the lookout and seeing, am I doing what I said I wanted to do? Or is my mind in la la land? Okay, so am I actually watching my speech at this very moment? Well, no, I'm not watching what I'm saying right now. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say in 10 minutes, or I'm thinking about, I'm not really listening to the person I'm dialoguing with. I'm thinking about what I respond, and they said one word I didn't like, and so I'm going to correct that right away. Okay, are you familiar with that? Yeah. Okay, so introspective awareness is monitoring, what's going on in our mind. What are we saying? What are we doing? Yeah. So introspective awareness is, and, together with mindfulness, they become very, very good friends because they protect us from doing what we don't want to do anyway. Okay. We've made a decision. We don't want to do something, but the decision isn't enough. It's like in the case of our precepts, or in the case of acting according to our values, knowing our precepts or knowing our values are essential, but that's not enough, because it's so easy to say, yes, I'm going to do this. And the next moment, we're off somewhere in some other thing, thinking about our own benefit of one kind of or another. Okay, so the mindfulness and the introspective awareness are what allow us to act with body, speech, and mind in the way that we want to. Okay, and to maintain our values, maintain our precepts, instead of just saying, I'm going to not do this, or I'm going to do this, and then our mind's off. Yeah. Do you have that happen in your life? Yeah. Yeah. This is why in retreat we keep silence, because, this so often happens and our mind just goes off. And then at the end of the day, it's like, wait, I made these kind of determinations in the morning, and I sure didn't live by them the rest of the day. In fact, I did the opposite. So introspective awareness, is the part that monitors. It notices if we've gone off, and then it rings the alarm bell. Okay, that goes, nah, nah. Your mind is caught in afflictions. You're off the object of meditation. Come back, come back. Okay, so it rings the bell, and then we have to renew our mindfulness again. Okay, and we have to again think about not only what we want to do, but how we're going to do that. Okay. Similarly, in our meditation, it's the corner of the mind that sees if we've, fallen asleep, if we're distracted, whatever it is, and it rings the alarm bell so that we come back to our object of meditation. So these two mental factors are very important. And then the third one in the pair is conscientiousness. Okay, so conscientiousness is let's see, here it is. It's one of the 11 virtuous mental factors. Okay, so it is a distinct mental factor that cherishes the accumulation of virtue and guards the mind against that which gives rise to afflictions. Okay, it's imputed to the state of mind with determination, non-harmfulness, and non-bewilderness, and enthusiasm. Okay, so it functions to bring to fulfillment whatever maintains all that is good, both within and beyond this world. It keeps the mind from pollution. It causes us to create virtue while abiding in effort. And it's the root of all the grounds and paths. Okay, it protects the mind from reacting negatively to external conditions. So it's conscientiousness. It's a mind that cares about our virtue. Okay, it cares about acting properly. It cares about the effect of our actions on other living beings. It cares about the kind of karma we create. It cares about our own ability to accomplish the path to awakening. Okay, so it's a mind that cherishes what is virtue. It cherishes what we want to become, our ideals, our ideals, how we want to go. It cherishes those and guides the mind against whatever is going to take us away from that. Okay? So you can see in our society in general right now, at least, in the political realm, and also not just with politics, but with common people, people are not thinking about the effects of their actions on other people. Yeah, it's just that thought comes to mind, I'm going to say it. I don't care if it's true. I don't care if it's not true. I just feel like saying it. And, and I get political points, or I can make other people afraid. I can make other people angry. So just using our body, speech, and mind to create chaos in society. Okay. Why? Because they don't care about virtue. They don't care about, at that moment, they're not thinking, what are the effects of my actions on the people around me? And so this is something especially for parents to be very careful of, because your kids learn by observing how the parents act. And if the parents say one thing but act another way, the kids are going to learn to do the same thing. Say whatever you want and then do whatever you want. Okay. And that's going to bring a lot of problems in the children's lives. Yeah. If they don't cherish virtue, if they don't, care about, the effects of their actions on other people and on themselves, their own path to awakening. So conscientiousness is very important. Yeah. And you can see that without mindfulness, introspective awareness, and conscientiousness, without those three, we're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere on the path. We may have all sorts of fantastic ideas and goals, and we may have, all sorts of, the dakinis are speaking to me, and, the Buddha's telling me to do that, and I'm having visions of Tara. But if you don't have these three mental factors, are you practicing? Are you guarding the mind, or are you just involved with another exciting trip? Yeah. And people in our culture love exciting trips, don't we? Yeah. Give us an exciting trip. Yeah. You can sprinkle it with a little bit of, Molly, or a little bit of Polly, a little bit of this and that. And wow, ayahuasca, or even without that, you go on your own trip. But we have to, have respect for virtue and respect, and a determination to keep our mind on what's virtue and to monitor our mind and make sure it is like that. Yeah. In some of the scriptures, I think in the Sravaka Bhumi, there's a big section about how somebody guards the senses, if you're a practitioner, and how you are aware of your movements in space, how you're aware of where your eyes are going. Yeah, how you are aware of how your hand is moving. So sometimes it seems like, why am I aware of how my hand is moving? Well, so what? It just moves. It does what it needs to do. But if you think, okay, I'm walking into a room. Yeah, I know the door into the room slams shut. Yeah, I care about the other people who are in the room already. Maybe you're coming in late to the meditation hall. I care about the people who are in the room. I don't want to disturb them. And I also want to make my own actions gentle, because when I sit down to meditate, if I've walked into the room in a calm way, it's going to be easy for me to begin my meditation, rather than if I walk into the room, I'm running, throw the door open, charge into the room, let it slam behind me, sit down on the cushion, unzip my nylon jacket that goes crackle, 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 clear my throat, Yeah. And now I'm going to start meditating. Okay. Believe me, I've seen this and I've probably done it myself. But, if we can if we have conscientiousness, we're aware there's other people in the hall. We walk, we stop before we go into the door. We catch our breath. We open the door gently. We walk in slowly and quietly. We take the extra 10 seconds it takes to hold the handle so that the door doesn't slam. My goodness, 10 seconds. Yeah. In order so that everybody who's in the hall already doesn't go because they hear a slamming door. Okay. We walk in, we sit down quietly. Yeah. Our breath is already calm, and then we begin our meditation session. Okay. So there you see, okay, mindfulness of how I'm moving my hand makes a big difference. Yeah, because I can just fling the door open, or I can hold the handle while it closes. Yeah, I can be aware before I go in the hall and maybe not wear my nylon jacket that crackles. Okay. And instead wear something that is going to be a little bit quieter if I have to take it off. Okay? So this is all coming from, it seems like, oh, well, this is just such a small thing you do during the day. But it's coming from a mind that has love and compassion for other beings. It's coming from a mind that cherishes what is virtue. It's not coming from a mind that is careless. Okay? So it makes a difference what the motivation is and how we apply that motivation to our daily behavior makes a big difference. Okay. So line 2 says, constantly guard the gateways of your senses. So gateways of our senses are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Okay. So be aware of what our senses are detecting. Yeah. Now, this can be really, really helpful, especially if you have certain things that trigger you in your life. Yeah, certain people, maybe they're a vet, and so loud noises, boo, yeah, it startled them. Yeah. Or people, just certain smells, trigger a memory, an unpleasant memory, which triggers sometimes, quite disconnected behavior. Yeah, because they're in one situation, but there's an external trigger that brings them back to an unpleasant situation in the past. And then they're acting according to the previous situation, but in the present one, and the behavior doesn't exactly fit. Okay. So, but if we're aware of our senses, then when, let's say you're triggered by certain sounds, if you're aware that you're triggered by certain sounds, when you hear that sound, you catch yourself. Yeah. And you say, there's that sound, but I'm not back in the past situation. I'm here right now. I don't need to react as I usually do to that sound. Okay. And that becomes very helpful, I think, especially for people who have previous trauma, and to just be able to know what triggers them, and then be aware of when that trigger hits. Yeah. Now, I know that the response can sometimes come very quickly, the old response, but if you train in this way, gradually what will happen is you'll create some space between hearing the sound and the response. And in that space, then you can put mindfulness and introspective awareness of what you want to focus on. Okay? So constantly guard the gateways of our senses. This is important when you're in a traffic jam. Okay? You can sit there. If you don't guard the gateways of your senses, you're sitting in a traffic jam. Boy, your mind can go ballistic. Oh, why aren't these cars moving? The government is in charge of, making highways that work, and it's not doing its job, and they should be remodeling these roads, and, why aren't these people doing this? And anyway, that car next to me, they got a little bit ahead of me. We were once equal, but their lane is going faster, and now they want to cut in front of me. I don't want anybody to cut in front of me. I've got to get there on time. That guy can wait, and then you drive fast so that he can't come in your lane. Okay, I see some people know what I'm talking about. Okay, So, I mean, look, if you don't have mindfulness, introspective awareness, conscientiousness, and if you're not guarding your senses when you're in a traffic jam, boy, yeah, you can get really upset. Then you get home, you're in such a bad, lousy mood. You open the door, going into the house with the people you love the most, and you throw the door open and you say, I had such a hard time on the highway today. Oh, to the people that you care about the most. Okay. No wonder we have problems in relationships. Yeah? Okay. So, but if we guard our senses, we're able to stop that. Similarly, when you go to town, okay, guard the senses. How often do you read the billboards? Yeah? And what do the billboards say? And what are you putting in your mind when you read the billboards? We have one right outside our town that advertises the new, I forget the name of the company, but it's something like the Pandaray County Marijuana Distribution Center, or, it's someplace where you can go and buy legal marijuana. And they have a huge billboard outside the town. Okay. So if every time you're reading that, what are you putting in your mind? Yeah. Yeah. What are you putting in your mind? What are you having flashbacks towards? Oh, yeah, I remember smoking. And yeah, and your mind goes off on something else. When you're watching TV, do you mute when there's commercials on? Or do you watch the commercials? Sometimes, I don't know about in Netherlands, but sometimes in America, they advertise the commercials. Like if whoever's sponsoring some famous football game, then the commercials are done to be really something. So they tell you beforehand, watch the commercials in the middle of the football game because they're really good. What? Now advertising to watch the commercials, which are advertising to make you buy something that you don't need? Okay. Do we guard our senses? Yeah, when we read the newspaper, when you're watching TV, do you turn off those things? Yeah. When you're in an airplane, they always have a big thing with, what's it called? Duty free. Yeah. And I've seen people, because I travel a lot, people, they take out the duty free booklet and the whole plane ride almost, they're just paging through it and thinking about what they want to buy. Some of it they can get on board the plane. Some of it they get in the duty free when they deplane. Some of it they remember so that next time they fly, they can get it on the duty free before they fly. And, the flight is like a whole fantasy trip about, oh, I'm going to get this tea kettle and I'm going to get an electric shaver and I'm going to get a new piece of luggage and a perfume. Okay. So there's one perfume called Samsara, another perfume called Nirvana. Okay. Which perfume, which aftershave am I going to get? Yeah. And then, of course, whiskey. Yeah. Duty free. Buy as many bottles of booze as you can so that you can lose your mindfulness and introspective awareness. Okay. So we have to guard our senses, when we go into situations. and, have an idea of the things that we might see or encounter, and remind ourselves, I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to let my mind go off to something. Okay. So you're going to some big family event. Yeah. You know the kinds of things that are going to happen. Yeah. So you remember those, and then you think, okay, when this happens and that, I'm just going to sit quietly, and I'm going to lower my eyes, and I'm not going to get involved with this conversation. Or I'm going to see something really beautiful. I'm not going to look at it, and I'm not going to let my mind go off on fantasies. Okay. So you think about this before you go into the situation, and then you guard your mind. Okay. Okay. Again and again, 3 times, both day and night, examine the flow of your thoughts. So look at what we're thinking. Yeah. So we often find this thing 3 times in the day, 3 times a night, like you do the 6-session guru yoga 3 times in the day, 3 times a night. It's just because they divide the 24 hours into 6 sections of 4 hours each. Okay. So the idea is every 4 hours to check. But as we know, doing the 6-session guru yoga, you can do 3 together in the day and 3 together in the evening. But the idea behind this is, to be aware of what we're thinking. So this is something we can do all the time. When you're walking from one building to the next building, what are you thinking about? Yeah. When you're driving, yeah, you may have a half an hour, an hour commute to work, and you may be sitting on the subway, you may be sitting, driving your car. Are you aware of what you're thinking? Or is your mind just somewhere else? And when you get to your destination, if somebody says, what were you thinking about while traveling here? Could you tell them? Yeah. Maybe you're sitting on public transportation. If you're not guarding your mind, okay, and watching the flow of your thoughts, you're doing a whole commentary on everybody else in the subway or everybody else on the bus. Oh, here's that person. Why do they dress like that? Why do they comb their hair like that? Oh, this one has purple hair, a purple mohawk in the middle. Oh, that reminds me of my friend who also has a purple mohawk. And then you're off thinking about your friend, and, and then you see somebody else who is, plugged into listening to something, and they're falling asleep. And, why is this guy, why doesn't he sit up straight? He's falling asleep on the shoulder of the person who's sitting next to him, who is a stranger. And that person keeps going and trying and wake him up. What a difficult situation. That guy should really, mind his manners. And the whole time we make a commentary on how everybody is dressed, how they're acting, what they have with them. Yeah. And then from there, we start remembering other people that are like that and other situations. And then we start planning for the future, what we're going to get. Yeah. And then you're walking down the street in town. I mean, why do they have windows, glass windows? Yeah. In India, they have corrugated things. When the shop is closed, you can't see what's in the shop. Americans have glass windows so that you go window shopping. And people, this is what people love to do on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah, is go window shopping. Yeah. Did you do that when you were young? go window shopping, or maybe you went in the stores to look at the things and try them on and handle them. But, if we're a Dharma practitioner, we don't want to spend our life thinking about all the material goods that we can get, that we feel good as soon as we buy them. We take them home, then they are enchanting for about 5 minutes, then they become boring, and then we get our credit card bill. And we go, why in the world did I buy that? Okay. So we can see in our daily life why these instructions are given. And it's so applicable to our daily life, on how to be a Dharma practitioner moment by moment in our life. When we lie down to sleep at night, have we done some purification? Have we regretted the things that we've said or done or thought? When we wake up in the morning, do we remember our motivation? Okay. Do we remember to offer our food when we're not with a group of people doing the food offering? Okay. So this second verse really contains so much, not only watching where our 5 senses go, but the 6th sense, the mental consciousness. And what are we thinking about? And what's our attitude towards what we're thinking about? We just had a meeting with the contractor. Okay. So last week we were reviewing some things, we were not so happy with some things, and we had some questions, and it would have been very, very easy to get into I'm angry, I'm angry. But what did we do before we had the meeting this morning is, each of us individually, I sent out a motivation for us to think about how we're going to approach this, and that we're working together with the contractor. We want him to have a good process and a good result, and we want to have a good process and a good result. And it was very nice. I said that actually in the meeting, and he said yes. He nodded his head. So you plan these kinds of things, and you think about how to really put the Dharma into action in your daily life. At least not to harm others, and then if we can be a benefit, for sure to do that. And I think it went very well, don't you? Last week I was going, this meeting. But then, once I changed my motivation and I thought this is how we're going to look at it, then I was fine going in, and it turned out quite well, I think. And then we'll see what happens. It's like that, isn't it? So you make determinations, and then you got to check the follow-up. Okay, so we did verse 2. Oh my goodness. Shall I start verse 3, or do people have some questions about verse 2? Okay.
Yes, I've noticed that someone put a question in the chat box, and that is Rashika Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can now ask your question.
Okay.
Hi, Venerable. I'm sorry. I always have a question.
So you have good questions, Rashika.
Thank you. I'm glad. So I just have a question. When you were speaking about guarding the gateway to the senses, you gave an example of someone who per se has a noise trigger. So I'm just wondering, like in my case, like in particular, sometimes I'll be meditating and anger will arise, and it doesn't appear to me that it has a trigger. Anger just more commonly. So basically, I'm wondering, why do those arise? And also, like, if you know the trigger, you can work on it. So then you can like further develop your mindfulness and introspective awareness. But if you just have these emotions pop up that you don't understand why, how can you work with that? How can you move past that?
Okay, good question. Because we've all had that experience, haven't we? Of suddenly an emotion popping up seemingly out of nowhere. And we're floored. It's like,
Yeah.
wait. I was just imagining the Buddha. And now I'm thinking about what my brother-in-law said to me 5 years ago, and I'm really angry about it.
I never knew meditation could make you angrier.
Yeah. So there's got to be some little trigger in there. And it might just be, our mind wandered for a minute to something. It's hard to know because sometimes our attention isn't so focused as to see what actually popped up in the mind and triggered that. But so then we just try and catch it as soon as it arises, So if you notice, you try and if you're monitoring your mind, and you see that you started to go off your object of meditation, then if you can catch it at that point and bring it back, that's really good. If we don't catch it at that point, then maybe, some image comes in our mind or you remember having talked to your brother-in-law yesterday evening. And so it comes up in your mind again today. But then catch it when it's small. Yeah. Because, when an affliction is small, if we can catch it, it's much easier to counteract. If the anger comes and then we kind of let it go for a while, or an object of attachment comes to mind, we notice the object of attachment and we go, oh, yeah, that's really nice. I want to think about that for a while, and then you let your mind daydream and go off and you're imagining, you're at the beach with Buddha boy, Buddha girl, and then, and then pretty soon how you're going to propose and what the marriage is going to look like. And you haven't even met the person yet. Okay. But if you can catch these things when they're small, then then you can say, oh, my mind's gone off. Sometimes if you catch it when it's really small, just noticing, oh, attachment has arisen or anger's arisen. Then sometimes if it's small, you notice that, it's very easy to come back. If you let your mind go with the affliction, it makes it much harder to come back. So with anger is unpleasant. Although sometimes we get a real buzz when there's anger in our mind. Yeah, we get some feeling of power. Oh, that person did this. How am I going to retaliate? So it's unpleasant, but it gives us a sense of agency. I can do something. I can remedy this atrocious conduct of this other person towards me, And it's actually some small thing. Yeah. But we're often running with the anger. But attachment is so sneaky because attachment, we often have a pleasant feeling. Yeah. You see something. Oh, you go from visualizing the Buddha to visualizing another person who you find very attractive. And you don't catch it. And, then you're off and running. And then it's really hard to bring the mind back. So it's important to as much as we can, to catch it when it's small and instantly say, this is an affliction. Okay?
But I'm wondering, I know purification just helps in general, but I wonder at that moment, should you do more? Because my mind is thinking purification eliminates obstacles. Since, I don't have the wisdom to identify the trigger and really work with that, maybe if I purify it, it can sort of eliminate the trigger or give me the wisdom to know the trigger and work with it. Does that sound logical?
Yeah. Purification, very good. Because when you purify, you're noticing specific things that you want to purify, as well as everything, all my negativities and all the previous lives since beginning of this time, but especially this. Okay. And so by noticing the specific things that you don't feel good about having done, then in your purification, take a few minutes and really think about, how did I get hooked in that situation? What was it that hooked me? And it may be somebody else's words. It may be their attitude. It may be somebody that you know quite well and they have a certain behavior. And when they do that behavior, you get hooked. Okay? So if you notice that, then in your purification, you think of, okay, next time I'm going to see that person, I'm going to be aware of that habit they have of acting or saying a certain thing. And I'm going to monitor myself and I'm not going to get hooked. Okay. And then you do Vajrasattva, you make your prostrations to kind of really cement that determination. Okay. Good.
Venerable.
Mm-hmm.
There are some more questions coming in. So is it okay to continue the questions and answers?
Yes.
Now yes?
Yep.
Okay. I see Michelle also has a question. Michelle, you would like to ask the question yourself?
Yeah, that is good. I needed to unmute myself first. My question is regarding guarding all the five senses all the time. It sounds really difficult because it goes so automatically that you are getting driven by, especially the eyes. You see something, so you react on it, etc. But also the things that you hear and discussing with colleagues, etc. Or I at least perceive that it goes all the way, all the time. So how to guard this? It seems an amazing, difficult task to me.
Okay. Yes, it is difficult, at the beginning, but it's like learning any skill. Yeah. The more you practice it, the more it gets fine-tuned. So at the beginning, we could be sitting on the cushion and we're off and running and we don't notice it for half an hour until the bell rings. And then, where was I during that meditation session? So at the beginning, it takes, we don't catch it for a while. But as you monitor your body, speech, and mind, as you monitor your senses with introspective awareness, your skill will improve. Okay? And you'll be able to catch things quicker. Yeah. It's really like any skill. It's like when you learn to type. Yeah. It's like, I don't know about you, but my learning to type it was really slow at the beginning. And it speeded up. It never got really fast. They're not going to hire me as a typist, but it did get faster than at the beginning. And so it's this whole thing of practice. Yeah. Of practice. I'm sure people, when you play sports, that, the athletes, they become very aware of small things, exactly where the ball is going and the angle and all the people around them. And at the beginning, you don't notice all those things, but I'm sure, as time goes on, that the people who play soccer or baseball or whatever, they fine tune that. And, and that's why, they can jump up and catch a ball that is like way up there because they can notice these things. It's practice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Mm-hmm.
You're still on mute, Eline.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I asked Dirk to ask the question if you like to.
Yes, dear Venerable, my question is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Is introspection alertness based in my heart and guards my mind from there? Is this my own experience that things that are in my mind, can slip away, you say no time for it, but as long as it is in my heart, it's always there and keeps me alert.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying that there's a sense of monitoring your senses and your mind that's always there in your heart.
Yeah, that heart center is much more alert on it than your mind can be.
Ah, okay. You know what's interesting in Buddhism? The same word can be translated as heart or as mind. Yeah. It just refers to consciousness in general. Yeah. So, whether you see it as your heart or see it as your mind, it comes to the same point. It means you're aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Then there is a question from Rinus.
Mm-hmm.
Rinus, you can ask the question if you like.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm trying to find your face. Wave your hands so I can see. Okay, now I see you. Okay.
I have a kind of practical question about using my smartphone. I think I'm watching my phone many times a day. And it's taking my attention, many apps and news and things I like to see and things I like to know. But I think I'm not always using my senses. It's the kind of attachment I would like to change.
Yes. That's the reason I don't have a cell phone. Yeah. But I can see what you're talking about, because when people come to stay at the Abbey, as guests for a day or two or however long, we ask them to give us their cell phone and we lock it away. And some people are like, what? What? I'm sorry, this is attached permanently to my hand. I cannot give it to you. People really, it's like, just like you said, So, so one solution is don't have a cell phone. Or if you have a cell phone, give yourself specific times that you check it. And those times you check it are according to what you need to know. Okay. So you're not always looking at it every minute or two. Yeah. Because that just gets addictive, doesn't it? Yeah. Or every time it beeps or vibrates or whatever it is. It's like, I talked about this last time. Oh, a message for me. Yeah. Somebody is sending me a message. Yeah. Samsung has a new product. iPad has Apple has a new product, and they told me about it. Yeah. And then here are all the things of petitions to sign. Okay. Do you get a lot of petitions in the Netherlands to sign? We get a lot of them here, especially coming up to election thing. You know, there's an emergency. We have to collect $5 million by midnight tonight. Chip in $5 yourself. Press here. Please leave me alone. Okay. So one thing is unsubscribe to all the things that you don't need to know about. Okay. Just unsubscribe. You don't need those. Yeah. Then, if there's certain times because of your work that you need to check to see if a message has come in, maybe at the beginning of the day to see if, there's plans for the day you need to know about, then you do that. Then you put the phone down. Okay. Yeah. If you have trouble putting the phone down, yeah, then if you're at work, give your phone to your colleague. Yeah. And say, don't let me touch this. Yeah. Until such and such a time. Yeah. When you're at home, yeah, be with your family. Be with the people you care about. Yeah. Talk to live human beings. They're so much nicer than people on screens. Yeah. So treasure your direct contact with real people. Yeah. And don't just go, floating around to meet somebody in, Arkansas. Yeah. You don't need to do that. Just, treasure the contacts with your friends and your relatives. Yeah. And leave the phone out of it. Yeah. When you go, sometimes what I see here is people make an appointment to be with their friends. Okay. They go out for tea or coffee or whatever. You sit down. What is the first thing everybody does? They pull out their phone and put it on the table. Okay. And then while they're talking to their friend, but then every time something happens on their phone, then they're paying attention to the phone. Oh, there's my drug insurance company sending me a message about the new price of whatever medication I take. Really? I need to know about that now in the middle of a conversation? Or, what I see people doing is they will spend time on the phone making an appointment with a friend. But when they're at the appointment with their friend, instead of looking in the eyes of their friend and enjoying their friend's company, they are on the phone again making an appointment with somebody else. Yeah. So it's, this whole thing of us getting addicted to screens, I think it's really dangerous. It's not good for us as sentient beings, because then everything's on a screen. You generate love and compassion much easier when you're with living people. Yeah. So really, put the phone away. Don't take it out all the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
It requires discipline. And in the same way that adults tell their children and grandchildren, don't look at your phone so much. You get a half an hour of screen time and then turn it off and go outside and play with real children. Adults need to do the same thing and not just surfing the web for the latest this or that. Okay.
It's also about curiosity. There is so much news about the war in Ukraine, news about the energy crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. But, a lot of the articles, they say the same thing.
That's right.
Yeah. If you check many different things, Yeah, this is what I do. This is how I know, because I've checked, certain things. Oh, I really want to learn. So I check this new service, check that one. They all say the same thing. So just read one and forget it. And then often they run the same article the next day. Yeah. Or if they don't, you can go back and read it the next day. Okay. So, and again, the media is so much geared towards making us afraid. Yeah. To making us feel like everything is a crisis. I don't know, maybe your media is more tame, but American media, how do you get people to watch all your ads? And they have to pay attention to what you're doing. And if you make them afraid, they will be there. And we let ourselves get hooked. We need to be aware, that this is the strategy of the media, and to discipline ourselves and say, I'm not going to buy into this. Yeah. Because I don't want to live my life being afraid. I want to live my life having compassion. I want to live my life with a kind heart. If I let the media make me afraid, kindness disappears, and I don't want to let that happen in my life. Okay.
Thank you much.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. There is a question from Michiel Kerkkamp.
Okay.
Hello.
Again, wave your hands so that I can see. Okay, I gotcha. Uh-huh.
Hi. I have a question. When I'm practicing what you beautifully called introspective awareness, and I have sometimes some short moments I'm aware of what's happening in my mind and stuff, but I sometimes then perceive it as a struggle because it's all my thoughts are not what I would like them to be, and I try to focus and I get off, and I know it's not all light and bliss. It takes practice and it takes learning, but many times I perceive it as a fight within me. Is that something which is recognizable? Can you give some advice on that?
Okay, so let me see if I've understood your question. You're saying that sometimes when you're aware of stuff, you will find different kinds of thoughts in your mind that you don't want to have. And then you say, oh, this is a vice, this is bad, and you start criticizing yourself.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes, yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, anybody else have that problem? Oh, every hand went up. Okay. So criticizing ourselves is something, okay. We'll get to this later on, but there's one mental factor that's called integrity. Okay. And it's a mental factor that cherishes our own values and our precepts, and it cherishes, how we act in the world. It's a sense of self-respect. Okay. So sometimes, there's that integrity. Yeah. When that's a virtuous mental factor, because it cherishes those things. And then if we find our mind thinking something negative, we say, I don't want to be that kind of person. Yeah. I have a potential to become a Buddha. I have a kind heart. I don't want to let my mind go all over the place. And then we shift our mind back to something virtuous. That's good. That's a good way to handle it. Unfortunately, we are also afflicted with this very self-critical mind that says, oh, I'm a Buddhist practitioner. Look at what I'm fantasizing. This is terrible. I hope the Buddha is... well, I thought the Buddha was omniscient, but I'm kind of hoping he isn't because I don't want him to know what I'm thinking because I feel so ashamed. What a horrible practitioner I am. Oh, my teacher is going to be disappointed. All my Dharma friends, they are so virtuous, and look at what my mind is doing. Oh, I'm so terrible. Okay? That mind is a distraction. Okay? That mind is telling yourself lies. You are not the most horrible person in the world. You are not, the only one who doesn't have Buddha nature. Nobody else is going, you have this image of, there's your teacher and all your Dharma friends with their hands on their hips, scowling at you. Look at you, what you're thinking. You really think they're going to do that? No, of course not. Yeah, of course not. Yeah. I mean, the Buddhas, your teacher, your Dharma friends, they have compassion for you, especially your Dharma friends, because they're struggling with the same things you are. So nobody's going to look at you and say, oh, what a disappointment you are. You're doing that to yourself. And that's just a big lying mind. Yeah. That is a distraction. It's another manifestation of the self-centered mind. Because at that moment, when we're sitting there just telling ourselves how horrible we are, who's the star of the show? There's billions of sentient beings. Who am I thinking about? Me. I'm so horrible. The worst one in the world. Really? Really? I'm sorry, but I don't think about you all the time and think that you're the worst one in the world. Yeah? So why are you thinking that way about yourself? You're just like me. I have negative thoughts come. You have negative thoughts come. We're both fortunate enough to have heard the Dharma teachings. We're both trying to practice as best as we can. I know how difficult it is for me. So I know how difficult it is for you. Yeah. But I want to support you. Yeah. And as you learn to call up your integrity, I want to support you in doing that. And, forget the self-criticism. Okay?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, self-criticism is like tying a lead ball to our foot and jumping in the swimming pool. We're going to go right to the bottom and stay there. Okay? It's a self-defeating attitude we have. So when you catch it, you have to point to it and say, self-criticism, I'm not listening to you. You're an affliction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, there is one more question.
Okay.
From Ina Albers.
Yeah, okay. Hello, here I am.
Hi. Good. I see you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your lessons. They are very straight and clear. But you just give some answers to my question. But maybe you can say more about it. How do I take care for the balance in me between guarding my senses, my thoughts, with the introspective awareness, and have compassion for all what arises in me? And there arises a lot. And also the strictness arises in me.
Oh, can you repeat that? What arises in you?
The strictness. It seems as it is a fight for me. I'm to the perfectness.
Oh, strictness. Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, you have... Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a way, introspective alertness has to be, or introspective awareness, it has to be aware, but not tense. So it's not, I'm going to pay attention to every single thought, to every movement of my eyes. Oh, my eyes went over there. Bring them back. Yeah, bring them back. Yeah, focus on this. Or in our meditation, you see sometimes people who are meditating, their brows are furrowed, like this. Yeah. You can't meditate when your mind is tense. So you have to have a sense of, I'm observing, I'm watching, gentle, but observing, watching, monitoring. Okay. And you have to do it without this super ego behind you going, you got to do everything right. Yeah. Don't let your mind stray. If it strays for one moment, you're going to hell for 50 million eons. Don't let your mind do that. That is an affliction. Okay? You've got to have some kind of relaxation. Yeah. And some ability when your mind gets very strict like that to laugh at yourself. Okay. And this is where that mental factor of integrity comes in. I cherish my own goodness. I cherish, how I am in the world. I cherish my potential. I cherish my ethical conduct. Yeah. And so I want to be aware of those things. Yeah. So you're not a strict school teacher with a ruler who's ready to bang you on the head. Yeah. You're like, your introspective awareness has to be like Chenrezig. Chenrezig has 1,000 arms. Chenrezig and 1,000 eyes. He notices and he nudges you in the right direction. Okay? So like that. Okay?
Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Rishika, and then this will be the last question because we have to stop soon. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's not so much a question. It was just kind of a comment on what she said. And I definitely understand the strictness. And I used to come down on myself. So I'm like, you have to be perfect. You're pushing yourself further away from enlightenment. And then with Tibetan Buddhism, so many practices, I'm like, oh my God, you got to practice everything. But it's funny now that I've been practicing, 11 years, not to say that you shouldn't work hard and be diligent, but it's more like, buckle up, you're going to be here for a while. And that helps with the strictness because it's like, even if you're strict, you're probably going to be here for a billion eons. Still work on it, but get comfortable,
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Okay. Anybody with a burning question? Or should we dedicate? Okay, let's dedicate. And if you come up with questions, you can send them to me in advance, and then next week we'll talk about them. So we have done 2 whole verses. Yeah, celebrate.